Alright guys, so this is Catmaster playing Path of Exile 2. We are playing Mercenary starting at level 13. I'm gonna try to remember what my mood was like on the very day. How I felt. And let's lower a little bit to 60. So that my voice doesn't get drowned out by the game volume. I guess I could also lower it a little bit more here. This should be good. Yeah, so I was like, this was not my first time playing Mercenary. I've played it before. Directly found a transmute, that's good. But essentially, let me quickly pause. So the left mouse button, this is with WASD, right? So I'm using my left hand to use WASD, and then I also have access to Q and T and R and E, right? But it's a little bit different in the way that you have access to flasks and skills with your keyboard hand in PoE2 when you're playing with WASD, because most of the time you have your finger on WASD, right? And you have to release like either W or D or A, essentially, to like be able to flask or to use abilities. So left mouse button is shooting. The middle mouse button is, I don't actually remember what this is. This is like, I guess, yeah, this is switching the grenade ammunition, or like doing, no, it's not. So this is the smoke grenade, or like a blink grenade, flashbang. I don't remember. I never used it. That's why I only ever used the explosive grenades, which are super good for clearing, but they're kind of hard to position correctly. And then Q is switching to the standard attack, which I've been told standard attack is remarkably good in PoE2, and you can also link support gems to standard attack. The standard attack is something that appears in your skill linking setup, right? It's just not a skill that you need to socket in the first place. And then on E and R, you can see there's incendiary bolts, like the skill that I'm using right now. But what I'm trying to point out is everything that shows, with the exception of the grenades, like these things that show numbers here, these are the different ammunition types I can load and then fire by clicking left mouse button, right? So it's you don't actually directly use these skills, but these skills is something that you need to cast in order to change how your main skill works. So that's what also Jonathan meant with they want every weapon type to feel different from another weapon type in an impactful and meaningful way. They wanted to make crossbows feel essentially completely different from bows, and they did that with these ammunition type skills. And so you have the incendiary bolts, you have the frost bolts, you have the high velocity rounds, which break armor, and you have the high what was it? The rapid fire things with the break armor, and the high velocity bolt, which is essentially like a sniper rifle that does extra damage and consumes the broken armor debuff, right? And does extra damage. And so the gameplay, it would be beneficial to like switch between the different types of ammo. I think I didn't know that in my gameplay. I have to keep an eye on skill bar? No, not really, because the character reloads, but it just adds a tiny little bit of a delay. If I like use frost bolts over and over, you see like first I run out of ammunition when I shoot, right? And then there's a slow reload animation in between. And I think you can like switch from this to another skill, and the switching and the reloading happens at the same time. Because so if both these are loaded, right, like both the incendiary and the frost bolts have 1 on them, then even then when you switch from the frost to incendiary or vice versa, the character is going to have a short animation, like the store in the GTA, a short animation where they have to load the different ammo type into the rifle, essentially. I mean, it's not a rifle, it's a crossbow, but essentially for all intents and purposes, this is gunplay, right? This is like shooting. And what I'm saying is if both of these are at 0, right? Like I just shot this and I shot this before, then switching from this to this will load the different ammunition and load from 0 to 1 at the same time. So like I should have actually alternated between the two skills, but I did that completely wrong most of the time, right? But it also doesn't matter really because, you know, the reloading is the same animation time as loading into the other thing. It just, yeah, it would probably be cool to freeze and then ignite, freeze, ignite. I was definitely scared a lot of times here with the packs. And like I said earlier, I really enjoy this being scared, this thrill of running away from a large and ever-growing amount of monsters that you pull behind you. And you're kiting all the time and that you never fully clear and you keep firing back. The way I describe it, it sounds like Monster Hunter Bowgun. Could be. I've never played Monster Hunter. Well, yeah, as you can see, I feel really good about having 45 minutes here. Especially because I played before, so I was like really confident I could find the exit in this zone really quickly. But turns out we're probably gonna like almost full clear the zone, like walk through everything. I think it turns out I walked into the completely wrong direction. And I have to go back, I think. But still, like, this playthrough went a lot better than my first one. I got a lot farther. Is it loud enough? Should I raise the volume a bit again? It's a little bit too low. Of course, it's the voice. But yeah, whenever you see like a rare monster, like they have, it looks like sometimes unique names. I mean, I don't know, maybe they just have a completely different naming system. And actually, Harry Giles and Cave Bellow don't sound like unique names, but there were, in some situations when I played PoE 2 so far, there were unique names on rare monsters. It felt like that there's like a rare monster spawning in a specific point that has a unique name because it always spawns there, but it could be different based on, you know, like when you play a couple of times, right? So this is a crucial moment here in the demo, actually. So this is what saves me later, and honestly is like a big reason why I didn't fail the boss fight earlier. I found stocky Myths of Rejuvenation. 2 life per enemy hit with attacks, which is super big. I don't know what the total life is of this character, but keep in mind it's a level 13 character, so it probably has like, what, 200, 300 life, if at all. I would assume that they actually screwed down life numbers total a little bit in PoE 2 to, you know, go back from the huge creep in PoE 1, where at some point you were expected to have like more than 6,000, right? Shotgun healing to OP. Yeah, I could have used the shotgun. I don't think you have the shotgun skill in this level 13 gameplay demo. I had it in the gameplay with Jonathan, but I didn't have a shotgun here, I think. So I used the rapid fire stuff, the armor breaking rounds, armor piercing bolts that are a little bit like a submachine gun, where it's like, right? And that worked sufficiently well for my purposes. But yeah, shotgun would have been awesome with the, 12 pellets in one shot, and each of them triggering gain life on hit separately, hopefully. I would assume so. And yeah, also, like, I don't know whether you guys saw. Let me quickly go back here. Like, when I decide to switch them, my gloves actually only had 14 max life and 10 strength, which... now that I think about it, 10 strength is actually 60 life, right? Jonathan said 6 life per 1 strength. Every point of strength is 6 life. So this is actually 74 life on these gloves. And plus 2 strength support gems, essentially. So I gave up more than I knew at the time, right? But I think it's still worth it for the 2 life gain on hit. Yeah, so this is the moment where I knew I fucked up, where I'm like, wait, what? Where did I go, right? Or I'm still like struggling because I know I have to select an ability. And I didn't even look at the map yet. Yeah, I'm identifying items and trying like to make the uncut skill gem work. I don't actually think I realized that I walked the wrong way, or did I? Oh no, I did. Okay. So here's the village entrance that we were assigned the task of finding. And you can see it took me 4.5 minutes to get to the second zone. And I think if you are really good and you played it a couple of times, and then you probably can do that in 2 minutes. If you know how the layout generates and it, like you get a favorable layout and all. Yo, what up, Anaruk? Do you think PoE 2 is kind of boring? No, I can't find myself in agreement with that assessment. Also don't find it's tedious. No, I actually like this kind of gameplay. The thing is, but there's a difference, right? Like a lot of you guys didn't like Path of Exile before it became big in like 2014, and I kind of like no, in 2015 and 16, like with the Awakening and the Fall of Oriath were like the biggest growth spurts, right? So a lot of you might be from there. I actually played the game when it was super janky and there was like still desync and like bad like stuns and shotgunning and then all stupid kind of shit. And I played hardcore back then, and I really enjoyed it. And I kind of like this moment-to-moment gameplay and struggling with like even white monsters. I sort of enjoy that because it reminds me of back then, and I really enjoyed it back then. And a lot of people who came into PoE 2, PoE 1 came in when it became like the super blasty game, and they can't identify with the slower and more mechanical gameplay, right? But I really enjoyed the sort of super unwelcoming and super, well, what some people might actually call tedious and boring gameplay. I find it very fun and engaging. And so the big difference is between PoE 1 and PoE 2. In PoE 1 back in the day, the gameplay was shit and I liked it. But here, it's the same sort of threat and the same sort of struggle, but the gameplay is actually good. Like there's good mechanics. You're given good tools to deal with what you got, and like there's a decently high skill cap, right? A reasonable range of skill that you could have, where if you are using abilities in a good combination and in a good succession, and you're positioning well, and you're using the dodge roll well, you're way better at the boss fights than you are if you don't. And in PoE 1, yeah, back in the day, that was also the case. Like you had to have knowledge of the game, and you had to use things like timings and all that. But it was sort of, yeah, like I said, janky, and sort of like it didn't make sense. And a lot of times, like for example, the skill of having to learn to know when your character is desynced and when it isn't, that makes such a big difference back then in hardcore. So like I said earlier, a lot of times back in the days, you were feeling that you were fighting the game, right, rather than the monsters. And in PoE 2, most of the time, you actually feel like you're fighting the monsters instead of like stupid mechanics or controls or, you know, pathfinding, whatever. So that's why I enjoy it, even though to some people it may look a little bit boring or slow. I think the moment-to-moment gameplay is so much more exciting in PoE 2 than it is in PoE 1, that I'm completely fine with the gameplay on the surface feeling smaller and smaller in scope and slower, because when you actually play it, it isn't. Because there's so many more decisions that go into every moment of gameplay, with the super free WASD and the moving while shooting and the different skill comboing. Every second of gameplay has so many meaningful decisions in it, whereas in PoE 1 it didn't feel like meaningful decisions a lot of time. Yeah, so for those of you who weren't there earlier, or like when we started watching this is my personal gameplay footage from Path of Exile at Gamescom. This is my 45-minute Mercenary playthrough that we did, and we're 6 minutes in, well 5.5, 5:50, almost 6 minutes in. And yeah, I get to fight 3 bosses in this. We're going to be closing in on the first one. This zone is actually not as easy as the first zone, because there's some ranged monsters here and some monsters that deal big fire damage. And this is like this. I almost got locked in here by the monsters. I think there's another moment where I actually get locked in and I can't like dodge roll out properly, and I almost die. Well, I mean, if you don't like struggling, you can still out-level and out-gear. You don't need to rush ahead. It's just like I said earlier, in a 30 to 45 minute gameplay demo, you can only demonstrate the mechanics, the boss fights and all that, and there's a highlight on that with the balancing, right? And with the gearing of the pre-made character. But if you actually play by yourself, you determine the pace at which you go into the different contents, right? Like here, my character is level 13 and the zone is level 13, but I could have like ground another level or 2 in a different zone prior to this without a problem, and I would have had more passive points in the tree. Maybe I would have found another piece of gear or 2, maybe a better weapon, maybe another uncut skill gem that allows me to level up something. I don't know. I don't believe you're right. I like PoE. I always liked struggling. I mean, I like playing hardcore for the longest time, and I might return to playing hardcore in PoE 2 if all the gripes that I currently have with playing hardcore are gone in PoE 2. And it currently looks like it. It currently looks like PoE might be back to hardcore for me. Because like most of the deaths that I had in PoE 2 always felt like my mistakes and not like stupid stuff. Do I enjoy running acts for 12 hours in PoE 1? You can't compare that. And yes, I did when I did. Like I actually liked it when there was like a meaningful difference back in the day. Like when you had to go through the 3 different difficulties. You had to play normal, cruel, merciless and stuff. I mean, I like how they made it now, how they made it more accessible and stuff, but like I kind of enjoyed it back then as well. Well, you can't compare that, because PoE 2 is actually interesting gameplay and way better designed. And it's not just like gear or damage checks, but it's actual like, you know, skill. I mean, build making is still an aspect, and I hope it's a bigger one than what we currently see. Talking about it for doing it for the first time, you don't think? It's gonna... You know what happened to Xeno? Xeno is still around sometimes. She just has a real job and all that. I talked to Xeno just a couple of months ago, and he was talking about when PoE 2 comes out, maybe doing like a State of Exile 2 podcast, like reviving the podcast with Ziggy and with Pox and all that. And he also expressed interest being a guest on Faded when it is a PoE 2 focused episode and all that. Like he turned me down like a long time ago when I asked, because he was like quitting the game at that point or busy with other games, like, or felt that the PoE community wasn't very welcoming to him. But he specifically told me that, hey, yeah, I'd be down to do it now. It would be cool to talk about PoE. But I think he's just busy with like real life things. I think he will be back. Like he has a son or daughter. He has a child. Sorry, I don't remember the gender, and I don't know whether he's still with his wife. I guess I have no reason to assume different. But like, and he has a job and all that. So don't worry. I mean, maybe I should reach out to him and ask what's his plan for PoE 2, whether he will come back. So I can see whether we can get him on an episode. Would be really cool. Like, I've always wanted... It's kind of like one of the goals. Obviously, I mean, I started watching PoE streamers and content way before I made my own, right? And then when you start to have that podcast and you get like guests more and more, of course you have that dream of getting like all the people that you looked up to back in the day as guests on the podcast one day. And Xeno is one of the few things that I have on the checklist that I haven't checked off yet. But it's also nice to still have those goals and to eventually make it happen. And I also don't want to have someone on the podcast just for the sake of having that specific person on the podcast, right? Like, I feel like I've tried doing that at some points, like trying to force it because I was like, oh, these two big names would look cool next to each other and to interact. But what I go for nowadays is just like, I really want to have a podcast with a good vibe, a good like overall flow, and people that really vibe with each other. I don't know a better word than vibe for that. Tested you a long time ago and you used to stream. You had a secret alt account, came to your stream on, and you knew it was a secret alt account. Yeah. Anyway, so we've been talking a lot to chat and all, but like what we're really doing here is we're watching the gameplay. So this is the executioner. So you come in front of pretty much every boss where you get in, like relatively close is a checkpoint in Path of Exile 2. And in Path of Exile 2, you won't be able to portal out of boss fights anymore, and you won't be able to like zerg down bosses. You have to kill the boss in one go from 100 to 0. You can't, there's nothing you can do. You can't die, you can't portal out to refill. You have to do it in one go. So, interesting and different. We'll see how that plays out for a lot of people. I think I will like it, but not 100% on it yet, because I haven't been hard stuck on a boss yet. But yeah, Executioner, obviously, theme spot on there with that 18 plus scene, I would say. I guess it's not great detail, but it's like very, very brutally implied what happened there. And yeah, as you can see, I'm very desperate. This is like one thing I need to point out. So in PoE 2, as opposed to PoE 1, where in PoE 1 you need to deal a certain amount of cold damage in a hit in order to freeze an enemy, or you need to do a certain amount of physical damage, or like in general, like a big enough hit to stun an enemy. In PoE 2, these things are deterministic in a way, right? Like where you have to ramp it up, and then when you reach the 100%, it does actually, in this case, freeze, but you also have like a stun bar right here underneath, where if you fill that up, the enemy gets stunned for a little bit longer duration than what a normal stun is in PoE 1. And you can scale that. There's probably nodes on the passive tree that, make it so that you fill up the stun bar faster, that when you get the stun, it lasts longer and all that. And yeah, as you can see here, I'm charging up the freeze by using the ice shot, and then when I finally... I don't know why that display didn't change. That might have been bugged. But yeah, now it goes down again. But like, yeah, when you ramp it up, then you actually freeze him. And I guess that's a cooldown on being able to ramp up freeze again. I don't know whether if I use Ice Bolt now, I would get to freezing. But as you can see, I'm using Incendiary Bolts right now just for that extra ignite damage. Nice. I was explaining the skills of the boss. I hate myself for muting. But I also hate myself for not muting. It's like, how can I need to like have a big red button that glows red when it's muted, and then I need to press it and then it's unmuted and it doesn't glow red anymore. Like I need some visual feedback on like a physical item right in front of me. That's probably the best reason to get a stream deck from Elgato, right? I always thought those things were like needlessly expensive for what they do. But yeah, so I was talking about how the boss had that slam that is an expanding circle from the middle. He has that leap, and he has this sunder sort of thing. And he also has like the thing where he swings his axe around like that. And sometimes for me it was difficult to tell which one of these abilities is coming out next. But I guess that's just something that you learn with experience. I feel like other players, like the racers or people like Carve or Ziz, like the real ARPG experts, are way better than me at like observing these patterns and like absorbing them faster. Like for me it takes a long time because I'm so overwhelmed with information, and the other people who are better at the game, they're just more capable of looking at the right thing at the right time, like knowing exactly when and where they have to look in order to get the information that they need. And I need to get better at that. That would be cool. But yeah, as you can see here, I'm pretty okay on flasks. I'm not worried here. I'm using my high velocity rounds to just snipe him down, because I know they chunk quite a bit, even if you don't use the armor piercing rounds before. And now there's one single monster that comes up to me, but I did get a Chaos Orb, we get some magic flasks, some good stuff here. And then there's here the lever, and that opens the door, and I think here I got confused because it didn't directly become interactable, and then I didn't see it pop up because I was like, okay, I need to go somewhere else apparently, because I didn't remember that correctly from the previous playthrough. And so I opened a portal, and then on the mini-map I saw that it actually opened and that it had a clickable label now. I wish that popped up earlier, because, yeah. It just should pop up fast enough that you can't realistically walk away from it before it does pop up, so that you actually see the animation happening and becoming available. Chaos Orb looking kind of underwhelming. I think all the art looks cool. It doesn't look like insanely... Or you mean on the filter? Yeah, it wasn't highlighted in a very satisfying dopamine way, right? Didn't get that ooh drop moment. But I like the 2D art of the currency that they did for PoE 2, because it kind of has the original aesthetic, but then looks really like 2.0 or 4.0, whatever you want. The art is amazing, yeah, but it also at the same time doesn't look too flashy or too big. Like, I kind of like the pastel colors and the sort of less flashy and pop arty design that they're going for with PoE 2, where it like is a lot more darker and gritty, and like there's a sort of understatement also in how the currency looks. Oh yeah, this is peak PoE gameplay for me. It's like just pulling a huge mob behind you and just shooting away, and always being like, oh, I hope they don't reach me. Now here I actually take the time apparently to clear most of it, because I'm like, okay, this is a little bit too much. I need to like clear them out. Can't keep on pulling them all the time. And maybe I'm also like worried about like not getting my drops. Oh yeah, I also probably was looking at the mini-map and was like, oh, I don't know where I'm going, so let's just kill these monsters and then decide. Yeah, okay, this is one of the moments where I get stuck. And I'm luckily able to roll out with the dodge roll, but like you can get into a situation where you're surrounded by monsters in a corner and you can't dodge roll out. I've had that as well. I don't know whether it's in this playthrough. And that's the kind of thing that Ziz was talking about with phasing not being a thing in PoE 2. Like, you really rely on your dodge roll to get you out of those hairy situations where you just made a tiny little mistake, a misstep, so to say. Right? And, yeah. But again, peak PoE gameplay in the sense that you have like monsters that you don't one-shot, they're coming up to you, they're actually getting to hit you if you want to deal the max damage. And I also like how they like overall reduce drops, like make every drop feel meaningful. I mean, obviously, if you compare it in the context to PoE1 now, it's like, where's the loot? You're getting almost nothing, and everything is like either white or blue, and barely any rares and all that. Okay, here you get... I got to level up my gem, or get a new one. I got fragmentation rounds. I don't know why, because I don't think I ever end up using it. I think this was like a same level skill gem as all my skill gems, so I couldn't use it to level up. Because you need an uncut skill gem of like level 3 in order to turn any of your level 2 skills into a level 3. So if your skills are all already level 3 or 2 or whatever, you can't upgrade it with the same level. Uncut. As of now, this looks like more loot. Well, that's because there's no filter on it. A lot of people would filter like most of this stuff out, right? Yeah, this is extremely unlucky. This guy is hasted and he has like sub-fizz. So this was a little bit of a pickle here. But I somehow managed to like freeze him for a very long time there because of the build-up of the freeze. And now I'm also building up on a stun, you can see. I don't know whether I get to stun him before I actually kill him. Nah, the high velocity rounds deal a lot of damage when you break their armor, so that's kind of cool. And then I noticed, oh, these are actually bigger flasks than what I have. I also had like an instant life flask here, I think. Was that? Right here, 23% of recovery applied instantly, unconditionally, right? So that's 23% of 150 is like what? It's like 34 life instantly. I don't know what my total life is on this character, but that is the equivalent of hitting 17 times with my rifle with 2 life gain on hit. So with my rifle, my crossbow, of course. Yeah, so instant flask still in PoE 2. That's good. Did the chaos make any drop sound? It made a donk, like the physical donk, I think. But it's like a clank. We can go back. Wait, where were we? 17, 18. I think the Chaos Orb was from the boss that I killed, so it must have been here. Nope. Nothing special. But again, you'll probably have item filters the way you have them in PoE1. You can put special sounds. Nah, it just really sounded like gold. Yeah, I think they should actually like make the Chaos Orb look somewhat different. I mean, I know that they don't want to like give the player like too much of a hand holding, but like I don't think it would be completely misplaced to have the transmute and the Chaos Orb look different, right? The Chaos Orb looks... Is that even different? It might look like this is a little bit darker font color, but I don't know whether this is actually in the... I don't know whether this is actually in the footage or... Huh? Why does the zoom function not work? Anyway. Yeah, they both look the same. So it would be cool if like the, Chaos, Divine, Exalt, kind of, the higher value currency that's not like transmutes and alts and augs, if that had a little bit more of a glow to it. But then again, these things work completely different from how they work in PoE2, right? Like, wasn't it like Chaos Orbs do something... What do they do now? They, Chaos Orbs now... Do they completely re-roll? I thought they did something different, right? It removes a random modifier and augments a rare item with a new random modifier. So it's basically an annul exalt. Yeah, it's remove add. Yeah, so it's not quite the same. And I think they're also very careful to fall into the same traps as they did with PoE1. So I don't think they're going to design like prices and stuff in PoE2 so that Chaos Orb will be the one universal currency. I mean, I don't know whether I'm right with that. That's pure conjecture, right? Like, but I think they want it to become a little bit more varied and less like centralized around one currency. Good thing we're gonna have carry over with cosmetics is the Chaosborn set with custom voiceover to make it in PoE2. Right.
Just business, but no.
But yeah, back to 1718, where we left off. So this is Moonjowls with the extra Fizz aura and Hasted, so quite a rare fight here. And then we get him, and he actually gives me the instant flask that I identify now, which is huge. Switch out the mana as well. And then we go into the Iron Manor, where there's another boss that we're gonna run into, which is like Varakash the Waxen from Forbidden Sanctum, from first floor. Like,
This place is right fancy.
pretty much very similar model, like basically Varakash 2.0. A little bit different skills, but you guys will see what I mean if you haven't seen him yet. And this zone is hell also. The monsters are like, oof, right? As you can see, I'm struggling. Directly have that feeling of pressure behind me again, and like having to run away while I probably fail to clear the entire mob, but you know, at least get to kill some things. Great thing about this indoor zone is the narrow corridors make for great grenade throwing. As you can see, like, it's very nice to shoot the grenades. You can also not shoot them here over the limitation, over the handles, or whatever you want to call it, right? So they bounce off there as well. I think I tested it. I wanted to know. So this is like essentially a very narrow corridor. But yeah, you gotta be careful with the pathing and with the monsters surrounding you in situations like this. What happens if a party member dies in a boss fight? Can you re-enter? I don't know about party play because we haven't played party yet. But in couch co-op, you can actually revive your mate when you play couch co-op on one screen on console. I hope that's coming to PC as well, so you can, like, one person can play with a controller, the other one with mouse and keyboard, or something like that. Or you could put two controllers on your PC. I hope that it's not going to be console exclusive to play co-op on one screen. But yeah, you can revive, but it's a long animation. It takes a lot of time, so you may not be able to do that in every boss fight. Because there will just not in every boss fight be long enough windows to do that. And then again, if you have a cold skill or you have like some investment into stun and you're able to build that up on the boss, like we demonstrated, right? Where you don't have to meet a certain threshold of minimum damage to be able to do that to a boss in general, but you're able to, no matter how much damage you do, it may take longer to build up, but eventually you will get that freeze or eventually you will get that stun. So yeah, you might be able to like build up a freeze and then while the boss is frozen, start the reanimation of your co-op mate and then revive him before the boss actually gets his next attack out. I know that when Balor Mage and I played in LA, we did couch co-op, we managed to revive each other a couple of times in hairy situations. Even though the other one was generally like, no, don't try to revive me, kill him first. It's like, yeah. Obviously, we were both limit testing and trying to see how much we can push it. And yeah, the reviving is quite OP in co-op. Because, I mean, yeah, being able to die and then be resurrected, like have a guardian angel. Okay, so this is the, you know, the Candle Beast boss that I was talking about. It's Candlemass the Living Bright. That's his name. See, and here I got stuck there as well, again. Because I went into the tiny little hole there right next to the altar, and then a monster blocked the entrance, and I couldn't roll out for a moment. So as you can see, I'm using the armor-piercing rounds to build up this little debuff here. This is the pierced armor. And as Jonathan elaborated, you can use that with the shotgun, which has like multiple little hits. So those benefit a lot from not having armor on the enemy, obviously, because the smaller the hit, the bigger the physical damage reduction from armor. And that's not changing in PoE 2. But in this case, I didn't have that available, and I used this high velocity shot, the sniper shot, as I call it lovingly. And that one deals also a good chunk of damage when the armor is broken. As you can see here, that this was actually... I mean, look at that again, right? So armor is broken, and now I switch. No, now I notice, now I switch. And now look at the shot, bam! That's like directly like 5% of the boss life, I'd say. So, pretty decent. And this is why you'll probably see me in this boss fight like continue a lot more. So this is the one ability that you need to take care of. But I don't think it can fully 100 to 0 you, so... There's really, if you have the life gain on hit that I have from the gloves, there's no limit to this boss fight. You can just like stay in the fight forever because the boss generally is not very agile and like doesn't use abilities that frequently or unpredictably. It's fairly slow and fairly obvious when he uses an ability, and even if you don't get out of the beam instantly, I mean this probably needs to be buffed. This boss needs to be rebalanced a little, make it a little bit harder, I'd say. Because you should have the feeling that you can die. But I think you can die if you get stun locked by that projectile mortar. But like I said here, if you're fully tanking the fire beam, doesn't matter. You're like still going to be at half-life. You're going to be able to pot up. And yeah, you're going to run out of potions, obviously, if you don't have life gain on hit or leash. So far it's the same as Waxen one? No, not really. No, not really. The fire breath from the Waxen one is different from this one. Mechanically, no? Like it's a wider cone, and like this looks like a beam. And I think... But yeah, I don't know. I haven't done Varakash in a while, so... I think it's slightly different. But maybe it's just because the visuals are all upgraded. That could be. But yeah, like I said, just slightly have the feeling here that, you know, nothing can really happen to my character as long as I keep shooting and as long as I keep, like, re-upping my life with the life gain on hit. I'm like, this is really a safe boss fight. Yeah, now you see oh no, actually switching back to the armor piercing stuff. But like generally towards the end of a boss, you'll see me like not care about the armor breaking and just like use the high velocity rounds and just sniper shot, because they do quite a lot of damage even if you didn't break the armor. And there you can see I got a stun off. That wasn't quite obvious, but once again pointing it out. So right here, the stun bar is like almost full. And then I deal some more damage to him with projectiles. It fills up, right? And then actually, bam, he lands here from the, and then I stun him out of the animation for his attack. He tumbles backwards, and now he's stunned for quite some time, right? Like until this bar goes back to 0. But it's like, because it mixed with the jump animation, I felt like I want to rewind it and point it out. But here, like, he raises his sword, I stun him, and he's 1, 2, 3, it's like full 3-second stun before he returns to his skill rotation. And any character can do this, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. You don't need to be specifically invested into stun. You just need to fill that bar on the boss. And, like, obviously be prepared for that happening so you can make maximum use of it. Yeah, so you can interrupt abilities, exactly. Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't want to take too much credit. It was pretty early in the morning and I wasn't very practiced in the game, so this might also be just coincidence. But I do think I didn't go out of the way here, because I was like, well, I'm gonna stun him now, so I don't have to step away. But I mean, you can see me dodge away, so maybe I probably didn't even predict it, because otherwise I would have played more confidently. I don't want to take credit for something that I didn't intend. But yeah, still nice to know that if you were a good gamer, you could do it like that. Or maybe I'm such a good gamer that I don't need to have the conscious intention, right? I just did it subconsciously, because I'm such a good gamer that I actually did that without knowing. So yeah, I poured out here because I was like, yeah, I'd probably want to hand in the quests now before I don't go back, and I wanted to empty my inventory, because I very I was very motivated to make it as far as possible in this demo and to like get a lot of good footage in for you guys, because this was the only opportunity that I got to record Path of Exile 2 gameplay at Gamescom. Well, outside of the interview where I was able to play in the background with Jonathan explaining things, but this is actually, I was like, I don't want to spend a lot of time in town, so this is a tactical back. Okay, yeah, that's where I suck at the fragmentation rounds, but then I was like, I don't have a skill for a button for this, and I'm honestly quite fine with what I'm doing so far, so I was like, I don't think I actually ended up using the fragmentation rounds. I got rid of all the drops. Actually used the disenchant option from the vendor to get shards instead of getting gold. That's an important thing to point out. So at the vendor here in town, there's always an NPC where you can not only sell but disenchant. So you actually get currency instead of gold. Because when you sell normally in Path of Exile 2, you just get gold. And yeah, you can also buy a lot for the gold, right? In PoE 2, vendor prices are not priced in transmutes and alterations and stuff like that, but you actually have to pay gold for the vendor items. So it's good that you get gold, but it's just important to know that you can not only vendor, but you could also disenchant and get currency shards like in PoE 1. So if you're saving towards a specific currency and you already have like 13 shards and you only need 7 more in order to get the full currency, and then you can do something with it, then it's important to keep in mind that you can do that.
I'll do that here.
Yeah, and this is also where I realized I have to probably go back here, because I don't get, from the handing in the quest, I didn't get like another pointer to where I have to go. So I was like, okay, so I probably have to continue here. I think in my first playthrough I didn't get much further than this. Like on the day before I had this appointment where I got to record this.
Stop them in their tracks.
But yeah, now I realize that, hey, I just killed the second boss and I still got more than 20 minutes left. We are going to get to another boss and we get a chance of killing another boss. And I was really pumped for that, because I was like, that's going to be cool to get that far. At the time I didn't know that other people actually got to the 4th boss. So that would have maybe demotivated me, but yeah. And in retrospective, I should have spent like the majority of my Wednesday practicing. just doing like 10 playthroughs of the Merc and like becoming really good at the game before I get to do my footage. But yeah, I mean, it was a teaching experience for next year Gamescom. Next year's Gamescom. Master, first think and then speak. Yeah, here, as you can see, sometimes you go into an area and there's a checkpoint, sometimes there's a checkpoint in the middle of the area, but there's almost always a checkpoint, or from what I've seen, like every time, just before you get into a boss. So that if you happen to die, there is a checkpoint and you don't have to do the entire zone again, but you can resurrect a checkpoint and do the boss again. But you won't be able to zerg down the boss, and you won't be able to get flask refills on the boss. I mean, from porting out of town, you can kill things and get flask refills. Ate a real burger. It was 1/2 kilogram, the entire burger, or just a slab of meat on it. Beef was 270. Alright. Now, they also, at Atowich, the Iranian franchise that is like establishing itself here in the area, where we have 1 restaurant in Bonn, 1 in Leverkusen, and 3 in Cologne. The one that I took Ziz to, well, Ziz paid, but I suggest the restaurant. They're doing 90 gram per patty as well, and you can get, like, normally I always get the double cheeseburger there, and that's like then 180 grams of raw beef. But then when you can get a triple burger, it does have a monster burger, and that one's 270. You just didn't like the cheese, it tasted a bit weird. I mean, yeah, like some people prefer like real cheese on a burger, and some people prefer that like American cheese with like the melting salts and all. Oh, here you can see, this is the one time I died. I died to the boss as well when I failed, but This is one of those hairy situations where, with you know, without having the no clipping cheat and without having phasing and all that, you just sometimes, if you make bad decisions, you get punished, you get super stuck. So I should have, like, in this situation, I should have walked around the monsters here and like walked into the hallway. But instead I walked towards the table and then I got locked in. Here, right? Like I dodged in here and now I'm surrounded and I can't really get out. I also was like slightly desynced in that moment, so as you can see, like the server corrects my position after my dodge roll somehow, right? Like I'm standing like sort of here in front and it looks like I could dodge roll out here or dodge roll out there or dodge roll out there, but then my position all of a sudden gets corrected and I'm standing here and I'm surrounded by monsters. And this is like, yeah, I don't have any instant flask left. And I'm out alive. I mean, I guess I could have logged because there's a checkpoint right here. But yeah. That sounds really good, Chaotix. Next time, bring me one as well. Got what they called chicken nuggets, but they were just nuggets and not chicken. Yeah, so this is also... So here's the passive tree. This is kind of interesting because... I don't know whether you saw that. I don't think I hovered that, but here's like an attack speed cluster where you get a big attack speed nodes for a node for 4 nodes in. An attack speed notable. But I was like, I'm level 13 right now, right? I have like 2 passive points that I can spend. I'm probably not gonna get to, you know, to the point where I can spec meaningfully deep into this, and I don't care about the attributes, so it's like, I'll just get these 2 attack speed nodes, and maybe the 3rd one at the start, just to make my playthrough a little bit more bearable, because as we all know, attack speed's amazing, and like, obviously, all these skills are attacks, so attacking a little bit faster, good idea, right? I thought, like, nothing else would be as meaningful as that, so I got 4% and 3%. But yeah, I honestly, now that I think about it, I can't remember feeling like it attacked faster. I mean, now that I look at it, the footage feels faster, right? It feels like the attack speed is better. A little bit. Than before. Yeah, I think it's noticeable. Or I'm on copium, and I'm like hoping that it, they were more like KFC chicken, but thighs? That sounds really good. Like, good nuggets then. Like chicken tenders, you mean? Like these strips or something like that. Like where there's not actually like minced chicken in there, like, but you know, like a cut piece of chicken thigh. Like not random stuff shredded and pasted together. Copied and pasted. I mean, like made into a paste, into like a meat dough. Like strips, but not strip-shaped. Great. Yeah, guys, you're making me hungry. Let's not talk about food. Oh, shit, man. I'm gonna have to eat something. Didn't plan for this. Like, I had, like, leftovers from... I went to eat tacos yesterday, but I didn't keep the leftovers. I ate them right before I went live. I was like, oh, now that one birria taco, and I had, like, a little bowl of pico de gallo, and... it's good shit, but it's gone now. So, this is the 3rd boss in the gameplay demo for the Merc, where you start from level 13. And this is the Iron Count in the Iron Manor. And, well, I mean, it's not there yet. Still have to step up here, and then it zooms out, and then you get like a little bit of a foreplay here. You want to hear the dialogue, guys? You want to go back and like play it for you again?
This interloper has the power we need. Kill him, and you shall have everything I promise.
No noose this time. I'll remove your head myself!
Cool animation. Yeah, so this boss was really a pickle for me. I really didn't get the hang of it. It was a lot of times I took damage when I was like, I don't really know what ability he's doing next, and Then there's this one ability where he calls down things from the sky, and you have like these areas, and does a lot of damage when it impacts. See, this skill I got, right? That's the skill. But but yeah, some of the things were really not that obvious to me. Yeah, okay, like here, when he transforms into that thing, I didn't know that I was gonna get frozen when I stand next to the sword. But yeah, the werewolf face is also... It's also deceiving, because I think I thought at the beginning that the boss fight was gonna be over a lot faster than it actually ended up being. And I also made the mistake of not realizing that this is an enemy that actually has, as you can see up here, decent cold resistance. So I should have used the incendiary bolts and my physical attacks a lot more than using the frost attacks in the name of damage. But then at the same time I was like, you know, if his cold resistance doesn't really change my ability to freeze him, I maybe want to work up to a freeze here and like try to chill him at least a little bit so he's not quite that fast and I have more time to react. Also with the ads, I was like really worried that they'd reach me, right? I didn't want to constantly stay moving because I felt like, you know, I can't run around and dodge all the time. I need to get the damage in. And I felt like using the frost bolts was a decent compromise between like damage and survivability, because I actually did get to chill and freeze. Sacrificed a little bit of damage. Baby Jewel Factory that Sin created. I don't remember that. But yeah, ooh. But as you can see, yeah, he somehow healed to full. There's like a second phase where he gains new abilities. Yeah, this is like the sky calling thing, or one of them. And I really suck at it. And then he has this fog phase where he like randomly rides out of the fog at you, and he also spawns these guys that are a little bit more threatening than his regular ads. So more incentive for me to use the frostbolt to keep things away from me. I don't know whether they're actually called frostbolts. They might be called ice shots or something like that. I don't know. But I just called them all bolts because there's armor-piercing bolts and stuff, right? But yeah, also, I guess I forgot about my grenades a lot of time here. I could have used the grenades. And then I just am really bad at dodging some of his skills, because I'm so focused on getting the damage in, and like I guess I should have played like a lot tighter and like tried to like mostly take no damage, but I had not that much confidence. So I was like, I gotta get the damage in so that the fight doesn't go on forever, because if it goes on forever I won't survive. I was like, I'm running out of flasks, I'm running out of stuff, I need to get the damage in, we need to get this boss to below 50% and closer to 0. So yeah, as you can see, I'm trying to do that right now. Trying to either use the high velocity against him. Obviously here adds again. Fog phase, kind of want to clear the stuff. Keep it away from me, so it's time for grenades again and the ice bolts. But once that fog phase is over, you're gonna see me switch to the physical skills, going for the high velocity snipe shots after applying the armor broken debuff to the boss. Right here, right away going with the rapid fire. Also somewhat better at this, in this rotation, at dodging. So he did transform again as well. That Ice Nova thing is also cool. Like, and now he's like a sword-wielding wolf, and now he's the regular wolf. Oh no, he's in the second phase always wielding the sword as a wolf. So yeah, that wasn't completely obvious to me. I was very overwhelmed with information in this boss fight, because I hadn't done it before. This was the first time I actually reached this boss. But yeah, look at like how much damage that high velocity round does when you did apply the armor broken debuff. Oh, those guys have fire resistance. Okay, that's interesting to know. So you would use the ice shot against those, and then against the iron count, you'd use the incendiary and the physical things more. Right, that sounds good. I think the red resist icon means weak too. You mean like the up here? All right, it's red and not. Nah, I think isn't it color code? You're right. It's color coded for this means weak to and this means strong against, right? It's not color coded because of the elements. Because like fire is red and this is blue, right? I don't know actually. But I think how does it work currently in PoE? Because we have that in PoE 1, right? Yeah, exactly. Like fire is red. So I think this means this is resistant against fire. But yeah, might also because I think you're right. I think that's how it works in PoE 1 right now. Is that if you have enemies that are like vulnerable to a specific thing, then it's red. Even it is in the game literally right now, so isn't it? Let me quickly roll a map that I'm not gonna die in because it's garbage for me. Fail. Yeah, leech is like something that I can't live without. Less recovery, fizz reflect, additional proj, sort of okay. I'm gonna die to leap slam because leap slam doesn't have conversion. But quickly, just going in here to look at the icons on enemies, which I believe they are in here, right? They are in PoE 1 already. Yeah, here. So these guys are resistant to cold. You know that because they're sea witches. And these are chaos resistant. But the chaos is look, the chaos is not purple. Like this is blue because they're resistant, right? And it says chaos and wither resist because it's the blue mod. So luckily this we get to compare. So I think yeah, if the symbols are blue, then it means they're resistant against that. And if the symbol is red, then that means they're vulnerable against it. Can we, if we curse them, maybe? No. Okay, wait, here? Okay, then it's grayed out and sort of nullified, it seems. I'd like to see an example of like the red one. Where they're actually vulnerable. Oh yeah, see, then it's if I curse them, you see the red symbol on the left. So I would assume that in PoE 2 it's also like that. If the vulnerabilities are on the left and the resistances are on the right. Like they're separated like spatially. You see? I mean that was a quick hover, but here on that one. Like when I curse them, you have the symbol with the frost on the left and it's red. So I think that the orange fire symbol means vulnerable to fire in the PoE 2 gameplay that we were just looking at. Because it was also on the right where the vulnerabilities are. I just don't know what this means. I guess it's the symbol for cannot be slowed. I wish you could hover these. Like in PoE 2 you will actually be able to like press escape and the game is paused. So I hope that when that happens you can like you can basically hover over a monster and then pause the game, and then have the bar up there all the time. Or like, there must be some way to fixate the bars so you can like go over there and hover. Like while the monster has the focus, you can like go over there and hover the different symbols and get an explanation of what they do. That would be optimal. Yeah, otherwise it would be horrible for any color blindness. Yeah, that's also a good reason. They're very aware, they're very aware of any colorblind, or not any, but like they are getting better at the colorblind thing. So yeah, so I think these tendril prowlers are actually vulnerable to fire. Not vulnerable, resistant to fire. So we should have used Ice Shot here to clear them. Which I think, to be fair, I do switch to Ice Shot most of the time when there's the ad and fog phase. It's just very nice to be able to keep them away from you. But then the other ads, like the court werewolves, are resistant to cold. And the dude himself is resistant to cold. So overall, using fire is not the worst choice. But I think the best thing is using the rapid fire to break the armor and to use the snipe shot. But yeah, so I was like very out of flasks now. And you can't refill the flasks. So at this point I was like, okay, that's kind of bad. I need to avoid taking damage and make sure that I use my damaging skills to regain life via life gain on hit. But I also wanted to stay away, like to avoid super getting hit. So I'm like kind of firing into the dark there and like trying to randomly hit him. So I don't know where he is, but I also don't want to be on the screen with him. So yeah. At this point, kind of desperate to kind of just end the fight. I was like, yeah, I can't hang in for much longer here. I do need... And then I got clipped on the edge of that Ice Nova. And now ad phase again. And I was like, oh shit, dude. Okay, how are we gonna do this? Because I don't have flasks at this point. I'm like, I really have to avoid getting hit by any sort of thing because it's gonna take me quite some time to gain that life back. And then that time I could die if I get hit by something that does big damage. So I'm very, very scaredy cat here. Right. So now we're back into the regular fight. And this is the thing that calls from the sky that does a lot of damage, that he does as the iron core count. Right? Like this is like the, I guess, this physical instead of cold. Because it's this red bar. Or maybe physical and cold, because it also does have a sort of cold fog effect on impact. But yeah, I was like, okay, that's an evil skill. And I was like, don't want to get hit by that. Luckily, I didn't get clipped by that Nova. Alright. And at this point, like, I'm like very scared, right? You see, my life is less than half. And I don't have flasks. Obviously, I won't have flasks for the end of the fight. I don't have to say it every time I pause to say how scared I am. But yeah, once again, firing into the dark, trying to fish for that life gain on hit. And it works. Like, I did get my life back up a little bit. And now he does the fog phase. And I'm like, this is cool, right? This is safe. I know how this phase works. I can stay away from the ads. We can dodge roll out of the way. And in my brain, like my muscle memory program is loading for the fog phase. And now what happens? He does this ability. Ooh, fuck. Oh my god, dude. I pressed the button and like skipped back. Now I don't know where we were. Yeah, here. Next fog phase. Right, and then he does this ability and calls down these things. And I was like completely thrown off by that. I didn't think that that could happen at the same time because it didn't happen before. I was like, wait, what? And then I was already dead. And this is the time where I was like, okay, shit, I got like one serious more attempt at this boss. Like 7 minutes left in the playthrough, but I might actually not make it past this. And I still don't know whether that's actually intended, that he can use that ability during the fog phase, because the fog phase seemed to be like a sort of ad phase for you to have a little bit of a breather and to be a little bit more predictable in what happens for a couple seconds. And yeah, and having that area control skill on top of that was like very unintuitive for me. Like I just didn't expect that to happen. And now, of course, I'm a little bit demotivated, hands are sweaty, and I'm already a little bit fatigued because it's like high focus gameplay, it's a high pressure situation. My friend is sitting next to me and filming occasionally, and I think at this point also, actually the pressure fell off when I died, because I think the Level Infinity guy was watching and another German streamer was watching. Okay, no. So this actually does mean vulnerable, because this happened at the same time as the armor break. Look, the moment that the armor break happens, this goes from like blue to red. So this actually indicates like, this actually indicates resistance to physical. So it probably also was wrong to use physical against him. But yeah, they need to change that. We need to tell them. Like, this should be on the left side. Because for a colorblind person, that changes. Like, you can't indicate something in the game or in a website just by changing the color. There needs to be more than just the color change. And like, is this actually yellowish? And this is blue? Because this looks different in color for me right now than now when it's on this side. Nah, that wasn't a difference, right? Hmm. This feels like an accessibility nightmare, guys. Oh my god, it is yellow. I couldn't even tell, and I'm not colorblind. I was like, maybe that's just like a, you know, contrast to the background sort of thing, where it looks like it's a different hue just because it's facing a different color. That's super awful. That is actually awful. I'm sorry, I can't say it in any different way, dude. That's terrible. All right, let's see how different the color contrast is. Or how the color contrast is. I think it's this pixel that I picked here. All right, yeah, here, like 3 in, right? And then go close this and go with this here. Other layer, this one. These are the two colors. We got. Yeah, I don't think this is like sufficient by any standard. This is not 4.5 to 1. This is like absolute dog shit contrast. Wait. We gotta get a color contrast analyzer. Color contrast checker. Web accessibility in mind. All right, so we got, what do we have? Here, paint. We got this, CFA D76. Can someone ban that thing, please? This, right? This is one color. And now, the other color. Be prepared. Switch on the music. It's the worst color contrast I've ever seen that's supposed to communicate a different state. And even if it was a good contrast, right? By accessibility standards, it's not sufficient to indicate a change in status by color alone. it needs to be in a different position. It needs to have like a big circle around it. It needs to like have a different shape. It needs to like stand on its head or become twice as big or something like that. But this is not sufficient contrast by any standard to indicate a different state. This is absolute fail. Yeah, imagine this was text on background. Okay, it's not that bad, like it's not background and foreground, but still, if you're like talking in terms of web accessibility, like the difference between like an inactive and an active state, like when you hover or when you focus, that needs to be at least, I think, 3:1, if not 4.5:1. I should know this. I think it's 4.5:1 for like functional elements. And for like small text, needs to have at least 4.5:1 versus its background and all. Hey, thanks all the people who are modding so actively. I feel like I'm really... Yeah, this is dog shit. I wasn't even able to tell that the symbol is a different color from like a couple seconds later when it's on the other side here. And it's like blue. Now it's yellow and it becomes blue. And I was like, I wasn't even sure whether, you know, it's just me checking versus the background and like not being able to tell really. What did I expect? I expect that it's better than in PoE 1, but it's actually worse than in PoE 1. Because in PoE 1, you have the vulnerabilities on this side. So like it doesn't matter that the color, if the colors don't have sufficient contrast, because it actually changes position. But you can't like indicate a different state on such a tiny icon with like a color change that's so insignificant. And even if it was a significant color change, it would need to be communicated in another way for people who don't have like sufficient vision, right? I don't know. That's just really bad. This might also be like a problem that PoE 2 runs into with the general like more gray aesthetic, where everything looks like a little bit foggy and blurry and like, I mean, everything's super sharp, but it's like with so much detail that I don't know, like sometimes you don't have very clear outlines and like everything blurs into each other, if you know what I mean, right? Like with PoE 1, things stand out a lot more a lot of times. Or learn to play. Clearly a skill issue. But yeah, really cool boss. Wish I got to kill it, but I tried my best. Fortunately, it wasn't enough. PoE 2 is better than me, confirmed. We're playing on like a 40-inch monitor. No, I think it was no bigger than a 23. Let's say a 22. They did have really good displays in the customer area. But like here, not so much, right? I mean, it's locked to 60 FPS or 100 or something like that. I don't remember. Yeah, 60 FPS. So this actually, I mean, I was positively surprised that the demonstration to the public area was better quality. But yeah, this is basically when I realized I'm probably not gonna make this boss. Now I died a second time, and the way that he killed me was also pretty mean here, I think. Like also like a quick succession combo where he transforms into the wolf. But yeah, I also got frozen in place because I stood on the thing again and then there was ads, so this is 100% my mistake. But also I feel like that when he is in the wolf form and he becomes the meteor and falls down, I think I always got hit every single time he did that, because I don't know what the tell is, like how I can avoid it. I never dodged in time out of the impact area. Did Jonathan say anything about how well it's going to work on PS5 compared to PC? I mean, from a technical point of view, I mean, they're doing the best optimization they can, and they're designing the game obviously with console in mind. Oh yeah, that's when I stopped the recording, because we were like at the 40-minute mark, and I was like, yeah, whatever. Right, so I didn't even record past this. Because I died and I was devastated and I was like, I'm not gonna make it. But yeah, pretty dumb to step into this sword circle, but yeah. Hindsight's 2020. It's a tough fight. I didn't know how to work it. But yeah, pretty good stuff. Let's see, what else do we have? I probably have like some more